Hello and welcome to my development diary for Mongoose Traveller on Foundry Virtual Tabletop. I'm Samuel Penn, also known as Not a Snark, and this is where I talk about the changes and work that I've been making to my Traveller system. So this is the video for the first half of December. There's not a lot which is user facing that's been done yet, so there's not going to be a lot of new features coming out in the next release. I'm not entirely certain when the next release will be. It may be next week, it may be sometime after Christmas. Mostly there's been some big back-end features I've been adding in, and there's been a lot of back and forth on how exactly I want to implement that, and also a few minor tweaks here and there. So this will mostly be a quick demo of things that have been worked on, not things that are necessarily out the door and available right now. So first thing I've been doing is working a bit on the documentation and help to try and make it easier for new players and also existing players and referees figure out how to use the system. So first thing you may notice is over here on the right in the chat, we've got some output which shows that we have a new version released. This will show the version number and a bit of text describing what the latest changes are and a link to the documentation. This will now be output every time there's an upgrade to the system, so you won't get a new message every time you start Foundry, but if there's been a upgrade to the version number of Mongoose Traveller, then you'll get a new chat entry like this. You can just delete it if you don't want to see it, but it will give a link there back to the release notes. And to be honest, I'd forgotten that that was opening it in a browser window, so it's opened it in a tab. There we go. So yeah, that will link to the change list on GitHub, and you can also click on documentation here to take you to the internal docs. These have existed pretty much since day one. I'm not sure how many people are actually aware of them. They are in, so all these under the MgT2e folder are shipped as part of the system, and there's a compendium for base docs in there, and it has a list of recent changes, and it has some links to the GitHub issue tracker and also the Discord channel where I can be found if you want to ask for help or raise issues or whatever, basically, or just generally have a chat. There's some other links in here. We now have a core rules. This isn't actually the core rules. Basically, this is a sort of guide to some of the how the rules are implemented. So if you want to know, okay, how are trade rules implemented and what part of the trade system is implemented, you can go look at the trade chapter, which these all mirror the core rules chapters, and it won't describe what the rules are, but it will tell you this is how they're implemented in Foundry. Most of these are currently empty. I've copied some things in from existing docs. We have a list of all the internal skill names there and some notes on Traveller creation. But yeah, so that's, I'm going to sort of fill that out over time. I've also added in the getting started section, which is aimed at new players and referees. So it goes through some of the options it's recommend you set up within Foundry. So a sort of guide to some of the more important settings you can control, and also a thing on player setup. So using the macro hotbar, links to documentations, that sort of thing, and some help on an introduction to using a traveller sheet. Something I've also added here is a video. So if we take a look at this, this is a no audio video. It's just going over what's been discussed up above as text, but I know some people prefer a video to see how things actually work. I decided not to add my voice to this, so you don't have to listen to me, but hopefully this is a sort of easier way to describe how some things work. And I'm going to, well, my plan is add a number of how-to videos for the system to sort of go over some of the more complicated parts of it. Yeah, so basically the first thing that's been looked at is this is all old content. I might update some of this at some point. Yeah, something I have added in here is a link to the assets. I still need to add the vehicles in, but yeah, someone did mention that they'd been using the system for ages and weren't aware that we have tokens for all the common spacecraft and also some vehicles as well. So I've put in a link to this and basically shown where they are, so that new players, new referees don't miss out on this information. Okay. Right then, now to talk about the main development thing I've been working on for the last few weeks. So this has been done on a separate branch to my normal development branch because there's been a lot of back and forth on how I'm deciding to implement this. Originally, I was going to do something a lot simpler and just track things on individual spacecraft, but now I've decided to add in a new actor type to basically track missiles. So missiles are a bit more complicated than normal attack forms because they're not instantaneous. They tend to hang around for several rounds, giving people a chance to shoot them down or use electronic warfare against them. So they need to be, each missile salvo basically needs to be tracked separately. And I was going to just, yeah, as I said, just have it as a data structure on a spacecraft, but I've now decided to add a new actor type. It's not something I like to do. If you could make actor types or even item types hidden, so I mean, being able to go in and create an actor and say, oh, create a swarm, or package these other things. If you could hide them from here, that would be good, but I'm not aware of a way of doing that. So I don't like to create new actor types or item types unless there's a really good reason to do so. And I've decided, yep, in this case, there is a good reason to do so. And as you probably noticed from that drop down, I haven't called them salvos, I've called them swarms. I might still come up with a different name at some point. If anyone's got a better idea, then please let me know. The reason I didn't go for salvo is because I realised these could possibly be used for fighter squadrons as well. They're both things where you have lots of little things that are part of one sort of cluster. And you need to sort of track how many there are and how many have been destroyed. And stuff like that. And you also need to be able to track them on the scene, possibly, or on a sort of movement track. So yeah, come up with the term swarm, and there'll be a sort of, at the moment, dual purpose thing for either missile salvos or fighter squadrons, though I haven't done anything really to support fighter squadrons yet. So let's take a look at how they work for now. So this is all a work in progress. I might push out something next week for this, but we'll see how things go. So if you make an attack with missiles, then instead of the normal attack dialogue, what will get popped up is a new character sheet, and you have the chance here. It shows the source ship which they came from is here, and the target ship we haven't selected yet. So let's fill that in. So we're now shooting a swarm at our close escort, which might not be a sensible idea to do, but that's what we've done. Salvo size is 18, which is a lot for a Beowulf. So let's take a look at why. Well, first of all, they're coming from a triple turret, which has got 3 missile racks. And if we take a look at the definition of our missile rack, we've got a weapon trait here of missile 6. That means it's firing 6 missiles in a salvo. This isn't what you'd normally see, but I've been testing to see whether this works. So if it was a bay weapon or a barbette or something like that, then yeah, it'll be greater than 1. But for a standard turret weapon, it would just be set to missile 1. We've also got a new trait of thrust, which allows you to record the thrust of the missiles. These traits, by the way, aren't standard Mongoose traits for weapons, but since I've got something that allows me to track metadata like this, I figured I might as well abuse it rather than having another set of data structures just for missiles. So you can track those. You've got torpedo type, which is basically a flag which says, yep, we've got missiles, but these are actually torpedoes. We've got a long range trait, and you could add APs and radiation and other things to that, and destructive as well if you want. So yeah, so you can basically add traits in here as you would for any other weapon type. Because we've got an actor sheet, it means we can drag a token onto the scene. So if you're tracking the positions of things and movement of things, you can put missiles onto the scene and move them around. Every turn you can sort of reduce their endurance to keep track of that, and you can see we automatically set these health bars. If you destroy missiles, it will reduce the count of the missiles there as well. Currently, you need to be by default, you need to be a GM to create actors. You can set permissions to give normal players that permission. What I'll probably do is I'll set this up so that as long as the GM is logged in, then the player will be able to click a button to fire missiles, and it will go off, and behind the scenes it will use the socket stuff to get the GM to create or the GM user to actually create the actor, because it does mean we get extra actors floating around once you've created the missile. I'm going to add in something to tidy them up, so you can just click and to delete the actor object completely once it's been used. This is all temporary, by the way. I'm not entirely sure I like what this looks like, so I may be changing it before it goes out live. It may even change after that. But yeah, we can see the tech level, which is based on the maximum of the ship that fired and the tech level of the missile. So that's used for calculating the smart bonus. We've got the thrust, we've got the damage it's done. and then when it actually gets time to roll to hit, we can do that and make the attack here. And we make the attack. You can see we've calculated in the salvo size and smart bonus and things like that. So that gives us our that damage from the individual missile and tells us how many impacts we've got. So if we select our token, or we can then click that, or we can drag it up to here as normal. And yeah, so that's quite an impressive hit. It tells us that we've been hit by 11 missiles. We have the armor here, which will reduce that. So that reduces it to 15 per missile. 15 times 11 is 150, 165, which is correct, which is good. And it's calculated all the criticals and things as per normal, because at this point it just comes in as a standard attack. So we can add that in, and we can see all the critical hits that gets applied, and we've even had our armor reduced, and we're down to 9 hull. So that was quite an impressive attack, but yeah, normally a Beowulf wouldn't be able to get out 11 missiles in a single salvo. So yeah, so that's basically how it's working. Yeah, as I said, you can, because you've got an actor, you can track where the missiles are in the scene. If you've got a grid which is tracking ranges, then you can just move it around on the grid, and you can have multiple in flight. I need to name these better, so I might just call them 1, 2, 3, 4 or something, or I might use alpha, beta, or something. I'm not sure what yet. So you can remember which one's which. And yeah, so that's currently what's being worked on. It's a bit of a change from what's been done before for combat, because we're having to create a sort of dynamic actors. I'm not entirely happy about it, but I think it's the least bad of all the different ways of tracking this, and I might simplify this character sheet a little bit, get rid of the graphics. I don't know yet. It might be nice to have as small a sheet as possible. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing with missile combat. So after I've got this working and out, I might start getting back to looking at critical hits on spacecraft. Let's bring that back up, actually. So we've got a number of hits which are calculated. I mean, these things are calculated automatically. We do calculate weapons being damaged and things, that we don't do too much with that. If there's crew hits, I don't automatically apply damage to the crew. Whether I want to be doing that, I don't know. I might just roll damage in here and let people manually apply it. But yeah, there's a number of things that could be improved on the critical hit support for starship combat. And as I've mentioned, I might start looking at fighter squadrons as well, but they probably won't come out in the first release along with missiles. I'll leave that for a bit later. So yeah, and I'll try and get a release out next week, hopefully before Christmas, but we'll see how things go. Okay, thank you for listening. If you've got any comments, then please leave them down below, or come visit over on the Traveller Discord, on the VTT channel, where I tend to sort of hang around and answer questions there. So yeah, thank you very much.